Hey, my name's Elizabeth Eleanor Makepeace, and I'm an intuitive empath. I support women, mainly women, to really attract their divine partner and meet the love of their life, because that's exactly what happened for me. And what I'm doing is this is my third day of just sharing some crazy magical experiences that I've had throughout my life, especially when I spiritually woke up, because I've been told that there's going to be many people in the future that are going to need some sort of guidance from others on all of the highs and the lows and all the scary bits and all of the unusual experiences that people have. And I want you to know, if you're going through something like that yourself, then it's absolutely normal and it's okay. So last day two, I was sharing a little bit about my experience as doing past life regression. So I was in a little mini group for 7 years doing past life regression training. And I now say it's training because at the time it was just us. There was, 4 or 5 of us in this group, and this teacher called Rhonda, who has now passed away. And really, the story has a little bit of a twist because I realized that I was in a mini cult, and it took me a long time afterwards for that experience for me to recognize that, oh my God, that's exactly what was going on, right? So let me backtrack a bit, because I really want to share that everything happens for you, not to you, and that everything's happening for a reason. So a lot of people would see that that's a horrible experience and, oh my gosh, and see it as a failure and even judge it as there was something wrong with it. And yet it was absolutely what I needed to experience, because I'd just spiritually woken up and had no idea about any of it. It was a new experience completely for me. And I could have been left to the devices of the wolves out there and gone on all sorts of crazy adventures and gone into a bit of chaos. However, I know that I met Rhonda because I was meant to experience isolation. And through the experience of being in that group for 7 years, I know that that meant that I had the opportunity to really get to understand myself and get to know me and learn and develop my spiritual awareness and learn from other teachers. It's not like we were all living together or anything. So let me just back up a bit. What happened was I had gone to a meditation center, and sorry, it was a spiritual center, and I went to a meditation circle and I met this guy called Wayne. And now I think that he might have had a mental health issue. He was a very, very unusual guy. And, I think also with all the stuff I know now, I think that he was just a way before my time of understanding what he was up to and what he was talking about. But as I said in the last session, he told me that I was a healer because of my body structure. He told me that, where I came from, the lineage that I came from in the Egyptian lineage. And we had some really crazy experiences. Like, he made these amazing, he called them harmonic accumulators with wire, and they were just these beautiful sacred geometry balls of energy. He made, 5, 12 pointed stars, and they would just move even when there was no light no wind or air movement. They would just move gently backwards and forwards. They were really quite astounding. And I had the first experience of, I had a few experiences with this guy. One of them was that we came out of, this is going to give you an insight into how long ago this was, the movie The Mummy was on at the cinemas, and we went to it, and he was talking to me about all the different archetypes and all the different things that were in that movie. And I came out and I visibly saw a blue circle on my foot. And I now have those marks tattooed on my arms. And it was I physically saw them on the ankle of my foot. And we did this crazy, I'm going to share with you this story of, as we went along of hanging out together, I realized after a while that he thought that we were together and that we were moving into being together, dating or whatever. It took me a while because I had no concept of any of that sort of, people being attracted to me when I was younger. In fact, we were walking through Rusty's in far north Queensland. It was a big fruit and veg sort of hippie market that we used to go to. And I was close to saying, I've got to stop seeing you, like, because I realized that he thought that there was something between us. And I remember him going off at me because he said, people look at you all the time. And I'm like, oh, do they? And he yelled at me, of course, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we had an argument in Rusty's, and he walked off, and he came back about 10-15 minutes later, and he apologized, and he said, I didn't realize I've been watching you and you've got no idea. People, generally it's when you've walked past, people stop and turn around. Now, it wasn't because I'm anyone special other than I hold the light. And so through holding the light, people are attracted to that, right? The light is attractive. And so, yeah, we had some very interesting experiences. And I think I shared, he is the one that took me to this workshop that I went with Rhonda. And we walked in, and she said it was so funny. We walked in, and his energy is saying, I'm with her, I'm with her. And my energy is saying, he's not with me, he's not, we're not together, we're not together. And so it was quite an interesting experience. And, eventually he moved back down to the Gold Coast, but he was the one that introduced me to Rhonda. Oh, that's right. I was going to share with you about we had this experience, and he told me about a back-to-back meditation. So I'm new to all of this, right? And please, before I tell you this story, I want you to know, please do. I have never done it with anyone ever since, because it's actually merging energies together, and it was not a good experience. So he told me about doing this back-to-back meditation. So all he said was, what we did, we were going to do it first for him to quickly show me, and then we were going to do it properly after the kids went to bed. He said, we just have to sit back to back. He said, you bring the energy in through your crown chakra from the light. And he said, and then you open your base chakra into the ground. Well, no one had ever told me, because, I was new to the whole thing. No one had ever told me to do that with the base chakra. And my whole energy shifted like this. I was like, oh, back. I was actually grounded, maybe for the first time in my whole life, right? Like, I just had this massive experience with, feeling really grounded. My base chakra opened. It was quite a beautiful experience for me. And I'm getting told not to tell you the whole experience, as in the steps, because it is a powerful experience. So anyway, what happened was we actually connected more than we were supposed to. And when he said, so that's it, and he went to move away from me, we actually peeled away from each other, because when we did this process, we connected so strongly that it was like I could feel him as part of my back. And so we peeled again away, which was not a good thing to do, apparently. we should have disconnected in a different way. And I don't think he was aware how much we'd connected. And we had some really crazy experiences after that, as in, I'm just trying to think, I can't even remember what happened, but after that, we had some disruptions and we tried to fix it by doing it again so that we could recreate it and try and disconnect properly. And that's when things started going horribly wrong, right? Anyway, he sort of left my life at that time, and I moved into this group, right? And so I was living down in Cairns. So for anyone that knows Australia, Cairns is up the top. If you're looking at Australia from a map, it's on the right-hand side. It's the little bit at the top, not quite all the way up, but it's on the coast. And the others were living up in what they call Atherton Tablelands, which is an hour and a half up the range in different little different areas up there. So I would travel backwards and forwards, and I did that for 5 years. I never moved up until the last 2 years. So I would go up on a regular basis. Sometimes Rhonda would come down. We would, she was writing a book. So sometimes she would ring me and say, hey, I really need some information about something and I need to come down and put you into a regression, blah, blah, blah. It was quite intense for 7 years. And I had some crazy experiences. One of the past lives I remember, I share the very first one in the last video, but one of them that I remember distinctly was we were working, and so many things I want to share with you. We were working on somebody else without permission, and that was one of the things that I learned through this process is I'm very much, I'm very, very passionate about always asking permission to work on someone. I will never work on someone without their permission, because that was something that they were doing, Rhonda was doing. She said, you ask the higher self, it's okay. And I don't agree with that anymore, because they then were working on me on a regular basis without my permission after I left the group. And so, yeah, so anyway, we were working on this woman, and she was in the house. Like, she was there in the house, and we were all at Rhonda's house, and she had a red car with like a station wagon car. And it was parked, and it was like a property, right? So all the kids had gone out bushwalking and, had the horses and all that sort of stuff. So there was no kids around except for my son and this little girl. They were both playing. And this red car that was on the flat ground, and here I am doing this session and I'm talking about this woman and all the things that were, I can't even remember. I do remember she was in a void at one stage. And then all of a sudden I'm getting, everything's just gone red. Everything's red. There's red, there's red, there's nothing but red. And as I'm saying there's nothing but red, that you start hearing this noise and then this smash. And while I'm somewhere in the house, nowhere near the car, the red car that was flat and had the brakes on, goes down the embankment and smashes into a tree. So you can imagine when I first start out that these little things that are happening are pretty like they're physical experiences, right? So I'm pretty amazed with it all. I remember we were all sitting outside talking, and the kids were in watching TV, and something on the news came on with we'd just done a whole heap of sessions, and something on the news came on, and I'm just trying to think of the guy's name. I'm not that good with all the physical information that's on the planet. Saddam, no, not who's Saddam Hussein, but the other guy. There's another guy that he was a warlord, or maybe he was the president or something. I'm sure that someone will know and put it. It was before Saddam Hussein, I think. It's on the tip of my tongue. If you know it, put it in the comments. He had just been captured, and he was going to be put in jail. And we walk in, one of the kids yell out, "Oh, you guys need to see this." And we all walk in, and we're standing watching it on the news. And we look over, and or someone notices it, there's a candle holder that was an angel candle holder on the fireplace mantle. And here's this angel holder with it's got a halo around it, and the candle had burnt all the way down, and the halo was the only thing that was on fire. Like, it had burnt and caused the wood of the thing to start burning, and this halo had burnt. So I could go on and on and on about how many times those things happened. So I took note, right? Like, I'm here for a reason. These are evidence. This is validation that I'm on the right path. And at the same time, I'm reading books, right? So I've got to share with you from a point of view of spiritual books. The very first spiritual book that I ever read was Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. And I think I read that before I spiritually woke up, because when I spiritually woke up and started having experiences myself, uh, I was, the first book was, it wasn't the series. So Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. He's got book 1, 2, and 3. And then the next book, which is outside of the trilogy, is called Relationship with God. And a guy from across the road from where I was living in Holloways Beach, he lent it to me. And it was the first book that I read, and I went, is that who's in my head? Because I used to get guidance in my head, but I didn't know what it was or who it was or whatever. And so I had these moments of being able to, connect with what this was. And I have to share that another time, but because I'm talking about Rhonda, but I will share the story of my cat getting attacked by 2 pit bull terriers out the front of my house, and how God spoke to me, or, this spirit spoke to me. The language is the same. It doesn't matter if you want to say God, spirit, all that is, super conscious is what I call it now, all the things, right? The terminology is just for us, not for that energy of consciousness, and it's totally okay for you to call it whatever you want, as long as you're calling it in respect, right? And so so Conversations with God was really good. I also read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. There was a few little books like that I read, but not a lot. And I did a lot of work with Rhonda. But we got to this point where Rhonda was saying, I'm the mother of creation. So she was channeling, or her higher self was called Aurora. And I was the only one that was able to channel Aurora through my body. And so she would often talk to Aurora through me. I would sort of go to the side of my energy, and Aurora would come through. And it got to this point after 5 years and lots of, clearing and energy clearing and continually spiritually growing, that Aurora, it was Aurora and Metatron. And Aurora, she said, was the mother of creation. So Jesus was her son and all the things, right? I'm not even going to go into it. But we got to this point where Rhonda wanted us to be her disciples and call us the disciples. So after a little while, I moved up to Atherton Tablelands, and it wasn't because I was a disciple. It was, they had been trying to get me to move up for ages, and they kept on saying that there was these three waves that were going to happen. And if you're in the future and there's been three waves when, well, it wasn't, 20 odd years ago. So they kept on talking about these three waves and wanting me to move up to the Tablelands because the whole of Cairns was going to be wiped out. And after a while, I got a bit annoyed. Like, I had two kids, I had a successful massage business and a beautiful golden retriever and a little black cat. And I had life doing really well, right? And so um, after a little while, I was like, one time, one of the women said to me, you really need to come up. And I'm like, look, if I'm supposed to be here when these waves come, then if I'm down here in Cairns and the waves come, somehow I'll breathe underwater or something will happen. But if I'm supposed to go, I could be up in the tablelands and get hit by a bus. Like, it doesn't matter where I'm at. It just matters, like, spirit will guide me where I need to be. And so anyway, 5 years in, spirit guided me that it was time to move. A few things happened. I was renting a house and people were complaining about my dog when it wasn't my dog, it was the ones across the road. A few things happened that I went, this is time. It's time for me to move. And this was a really interesting experience because I thought, well, how do I move from one place to another without, checking the rentals and blah, blah, blah. So I told them that I'm moving up, and one of the women, her children started looking, one of her kids started looking for me for rentals and rang me up and said, I don't know if you're going to like this. The price is a bit expensive. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to afford it, but it's right on the lake in Yungaburra, which is up in the Tablelands. And so I said, give me the phone number and I'll get the address and I'll have a look. So I was living in Oleander Street in Holloways Beach, and I ring up the real estate and they say, yep, you can come and have a look, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what's the address? And they said, Oleander Drive. So I just knew straight away it was my house, right? So I moved from Oleander Street to Oleander Drive in Yungaburra, and we lived right next to the lake. It was a beautiful little place. And I moved up, and Rhonda, the whole idea was we were going to create a business so that Rhonda could start publishing her book and getting out there. So we got some rooms at a little council funded house called Enterprise House in Atherton. And I was doing massage and she was doing past life regression. And I remember one day she came to me and she said, I've had a few people come to me from your massage to come and do past life regression. And I've noticed that you're not telling them that I'm the mother of creation. And I said, in my innocence, so innocence is my superpower, remember, and should be yours, right? Innocence is where all the magic happens. In my innocence, I said, look, I don't know if I believe that yet myself. And so I'm not going to say that until I feel comfortable and I know that to be true for me. I'm not saying it's not real and it's not right, but I'm just saying I personally haven't got that belief yet. And I think now looking back, she must have started questioning me from about then, because that's a pretty powerful thing to say to your teacher. And I didn't realize at the time, And so we started doing, what do you call it? We started, there was all these sayings that used to come through the channeling, through the regressions. So we started making t-shirts with all these sayings on it. And I had suggested that Rhonda needs to start delegating, and she really didn't want to. So we were creating a website, and someone was creating a website, and she was supposed to be putting this book together and blah blah blah. And I said, we need to start delegating, giving us some stuff to do if we're going to get this out there, right? Like I was serious, like this is the sort of stuff that I do. And so she finally gave me the t-shirts as, that was my project. But what would happen is we were all working at this enterprise house, and we'd put half the money into our kitty for rent and everything, and half would go to us. And I'd go to put my money in, and you'd open the box, and here's a letter, little piece of paper from Rhonda saying, I owe you, and how much money. I'm like, okay. So the first 5 years I had no idea, but when I moved up to the Tablelands, I discovered that Rhonda did whatever she wanted to, and the only guy in the community was an older guy that actually had a thing for her, and she was using him, in my opinion, because he was paying for all of her rent, her exorbitant phone bills, because it wasn't like it is now, like you had to pay for STD calls before mobile, you had, I don't even know if you had mobile phones then. I think we might have just started bringing them in, but it was everything was a landline, and you had to pay per minute or something. Anyway, she'd come with these massive, like over $1,000 phone bill, and if you questioned any of it, she would say this was done so that we could bring your judgment up. So anything that you didn't allow or you made a judgment about, she would say, because she smokes cigarettes as well. I'm smoking because the more people judge me, then I can see their stuff, right? Like really clever. And so I had no problem. I was just living my life, right? So anyway, through this experience, um, as going into day 2, I was talking about meeting a guy, that I was going to have a Messiah. And I meet this guy. Long story short, I meet this guy. I'd been by myself for 10 years with my kids. And I meet this guy, and we fall pregnant, and I find out that I've got a 15-centimeter fibroid. And I'll share this in another video, but I lost the baby halfway through. Her name was Sarah, and she's now my one of my guides, and she's just coming through right now, and she's a little pixie energy, very funny. And so I was in hospital for like 2 weeks, fighting for my life in a way, and I didn't realize, but that's what was happening. And so when I came out, Rhonda had spent all the money that we needed for the t-shirts that were already created, and we needed to pay the bill for it, right? And I come out, and Shirts North are ringing, and no one's answering the phone while or their messages. So I think it must have been a week later. I'm still getting over the fact that I should have had a blood transfusion and I didn't, so I was a bit weak, and so this other woman, I won't mention her name because she's still alive. She rang me up and she said, Shirts North are ringing and they're asking for you. And I said, yeah, I know. I said, the reason they're asking for me is I'm the only one that's had the decency to ring up and tell them that something's gone on, and I'm doing the best I can to pay their bill. Because what I was doing was, instead of putting my money into the kitty for the rent, knowing that Rhonda was going to take it, I was putting it into another envelope and hiding it. And then I was putting that money to Shirts North. And so this woman tells Rhonda that that's what I was doing. And they sit me down one day and say, Rhonda comes to me with this whole, oh, I'm so sorry to tell you this. It's really hard to even share this with you, but we did a session on you. We did a regression on you last night. and you have this dark goddess infiltrating your whole world, blanketing the consciousness of the group and creating seeds of doubt in the group and the whole world, right? And I believed her because I had no reason not to believe her. I'd been, 7 years. She was my teacher, she was my mentor, all the things. And I believed that I had this dark goddess that was infiltrating my whole world and blanketing the consciousness and creating seeds of doubt. And from that moment on, everyone in the group, and I had been around for 7 years in this whole area, like 8 years maybe, and they were now my family. I had no one else in my life, maybe a few friends here and there, but nothing. They actually weren't even friends, just people that I knew as acquaintances. They were my family and my friends. I didn't know anyone else. And it was like they just ripped all of that out from under me, and none of them. And there was, their family, their kids and, adult kids and stuff. Everyone just stopped believing in anything that I had to say, and just took, she just basically pulled the rug from underneath me. Again, in my innocence, so she says to me, I think that we need to do a session so that we can, clear this energy from you. And in my innocence, and I look back and I go, oh my gosh, what a powerful woman you were back then, Elizabeth. In my innocence, I looked at her and I said, Rhonda, I've been with you for 7 years now. If I can't work this out by myself, there's something wrong with your teachings. And I need to go and do this by myself, right? So I didn't leave the group, but I spent time away from the group. I had just lost a baby. I had a lot going on with my children because I lost a baby. I had a lot going on with my relationship because it was his first child, and he was younger than me, and there was a lot going on. And then on top of this was the hardest thing that I had ever gone through, way more than losing a child, because they would ring me to see if I'm okay. She was sending me long emails, like pages long emails. And I remember a number of times she said in the emails that this is an opportunity for my soul. And if I don't go through this test the correct way, which means to stay with her, that my soul is going to have 250 more lives to get to this point again. You can imagine, right? It was a really challenging time because this was spiritual warfare, not just physical. I had never experienced anything so debilitating to my soul before. And I said to her, because I listened to my intuition, I said, Rhonda, I have to listen to my intuition. And my intuition is saying that I need to pull back, that I need to work this out by myself. And if it means that I have to do another 250 more lives, then that's what I'm going to do, because I've got to listen to my intuition. So regardless of what anyone's telling you, I'm asking you to always connect in with your higher self and go there first. Go to the light first, right? Because I didn't listen to my teacher, I listened to myself. And through that experience, I let go of the group. I remember I was doing volunteer work at the time, and I was going crazy. Like, I'm talking every single tiny thought that I'd have that was, I remember someone went and saw some people, and where they lived, there was some hippies that used to live, and they were all acupuncturists. They're still practicing, actually, as of this recording. A beautiful community. They were all hippies from the 60s. and they lived in humpies all on this property, and I'd always wanted to go and check it out because they lived very much in this beautiful, love, peace, and mung beans sort of thing. And one of my friends from the group, her daughter got the opportunity to go. And I had this moment of feeling a little bit envious that she had seen it. And so I had this like, oh my gosh, is that the dark goddess? Every single thought that I had that was anything that wasn't of the light, like any thoughts of jealousy, any thoughts of, just normal human thoughts that we sometimes have. I was questioning, oh my God, that's the dark goddess, right? Until one day I'm at this volunteer place that I was volunteering, and it's lunchtime and I'm freaking out, and again going through I was exhausted, right? Like constantly doubting myself. And all of a sudden it dawns on me and I sit down and like, holy crap. Who is blanketing the consciousness and creating seeds of doubt is not fucking me. And I have this moment where I realize that it's not me, it's Rhonda. And everything started to shift. And through that experience, my husband at the time was looking for, he had an important letter coming, and it was late. And just after this experience, I came home. Actually, what happened was I was, where do I work now? What do I do from here? And I picked up one of the kids' friends from, because it was hot, and he lived up the road, and he was telling me that his mum was just about to sell her hairdressing salon because she'd had a fight with two other people that were working there, and she was like, I'm done, I'm, blah, blah, blah. And had that conversation, dropped him off, went home, and Toby had got this letter. So we sat down and we've got the doors open to outside. He sits down on the lounge and opens it, and here's this letter that says, this important information that he wanted to know. And as he says it, this blue Ulysses butterfly comes into the house and circles around us and then goes out again. And I'm like, oh man, that's a sign for sure. And next thing I know, I get a knock on the door, and it's the woman that's just about to sell her hairdressing salon and asking me if I want to hire out a room in there, because if I hire the room out, she won't sell the salon. And I ended up working there for a couple of years afterwards as I got myself settled. So coming back out of this like mini cult, my life started flowing. And this is what I call white rabbit moments now, right? Like going and following the threads of energy that are taking you on a journey to support you, because your higher self is always giving you information. You just need to have the eyes to see. And so because of that experience, I see this as a valuable experience in my energy field, in my spiritual journey. A lot of people from an external would go, oh, she was in a cult and it must have been bad and blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't really a cult, right? But it was at the same time. Someone, like when you really look at what cult means, the definition of it, everything is, right? It's all about being, conditioned to believe a certain thing, right? And so because of that experience, I got to really fine tune my intuition and really trust in listening to myself first. But now I can smell and sniff out manipulation and dark energy like you can't believe. Because of that, I got the opportunity to experience what it feels like, that vibration of trying to power over me. And so I very rarely have that energy in my field anymore, because that energy knows my light, and it knows that I've already conquered that darkness. And so it doesn't come in anymore, because if it is in my space, if it comes through in a person, that person knows I see them, right? And I don't see them in a way of, I see you and I'm aggressive and I'm going to, smash you, or, you're evil or anything like that. I see it. I let the energy know that I can see you, and, you know, I feel compassion for that energy. And so it's very rare for that energy to even be in my space anymore, because if it is in someone, it is softened and it goes to the back, because the energy of love generally comes in, because they feel safe and they know that they can trust me and all of those things. They feel a lot, they feel love around me. And so that would not have happened if I hadn't have had that experience with Rhonda and that group that I was in. So I had many beautiful experiences. And so next session, I might even share with you the story of when I saw the devil and I went to the devil's lair. It was part of one of my past life regressions. So if you're interested in finding out more, keep continuing, watching my story. This is something that I've been challenged by someone to do 365 days. And I thought, why not? Let's see. It's more of a discipline for me than anything. I'm not doing it in any sort of structure. My business mentor would most probably be gawking at me at the moment, because I don't have, I haven't been doing anything but doing this like a diary entry. If you're interested and want to find out more, we will have all of my information underneath in the comments. Please like and follow. What is it? Hit the subscribe button and press the bell or something like that, people say. I'm sure I'll get it right. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next session.